Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's summertime. Uh, Doing a lot of catch up right now and travel as well. I will be heading up to the Bay Area kind of next week, actually, above that, and making a video for the Grasshopper Adventure series uh, about USAL, seeing MIG, and they've got a new course going. So beware of that. But for those of you that made it out this past weekend to our Big Bear adventure, I've already made 2 videos about riding up there. And you would have figured that that's it, because you hear people talking about it as much as they should. But Robin, who is in charge of the Dirty Bear, showed us around, and some single track we have done. Actually, a lot of single track. Anyways, can't wait to make that video. We're going to be doing something pretty soon. Just a quick little recap from our Pacifico Mountain 5-year anniversary ride. Got some video of that, so we'll be checking that at you. But tonight we're talking with Jesse of Ride California. If you've watched some of our videos before, he's put on some great events. And I know I've had a lot of talk from the GBC community about bikepacking. And I'm not qualified to answer questions like that or to put on an event, but Jesse can. So let's bring him on. Hello and good evening, Jesse.
Howdy, howdy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, the question I have to ask first, do you have your camping spot for Sea Otter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We had a whole crew that was on standby for like an hour leading up to the time, and we secured our usual spot. So we will be at our little corner of Sea Otter. Come see us.
Yes. Well, we've kind of done our same thing again. We didn't do it. We have to pray that we get a spot a little bit later. And, last couple of years, Jesse's had a nice little, 1 year was barbecue, last year was tacos.
Yep.
So, next year it's going to be foie gras.
Could be. You never know what you're going to get with us, but it'll be a good time.
Well, I am very intrigued about bikepacking and multi-day trips, and I have done one really big one, and my biggest fault was it was a really big one. There was a lot of riding every day and not enough checking out what I was doing in the experience. So what drove you first into bikes before we get into bikepacking? Because I think that normally comes first.
Oh, for bikes, I mean, I always rode as a kid. Even at a young age, my parents bought like half a dozen bikes at a thrift store that were all missing parts, and I somehow managed to piece together one crappy bike that had a bolt for a pedal, and I'd ride that around town, but just loved it. Always crashing, getting hurt on them, but even with a bad bike, you can still have fun. And so as the years went on, kept riding. I went into the military, and coming out of the military, got a job at our local bike shop. I was really just looking for time to kill just in between jobs, and just fell in love with it. And it was, especially for me, coming from the military, it was a super healing experience for me. I'd had a lot of tough times in the military, and just getting on my bike was something that I needed, and just really added a lot of mental healing. I mean, physically, it's always a challenge, and you can push yourself, but the mental side of it was just incredible, and that's what really became a big part of my life, and still is today.
Wow. I think that everyone has their own story of how they got onto a bike, but I think it's a little bit more visceral of an experience than probably what we do, like racquetball. Really appreciate what you're doing in life. I mean, racquetball is probably a pretty worthy sport, not in the Olympics yet, but one of those I just think that there's something about being able to move around at your own power, while also just being able to, you know, you know, the scenery, the connection you have.
Absolutely. And most events and, sports, like, they usually don't last more than, half hour, maybe an hour. I mean, runners can get out there a little bit longer, but most things in life, most challenges in life, we can suck them up, we can do them. But cycling, that's, as you know, and most probably your viewers right now know that it can be hours and hours. And so just battling those demons in your head to push yourself. A lot of times it's not so much the physical, but it's the mental, just pushing yourself mentally and getting stronger mentally. That's one of the beauty of cycling, is what you can accomplish. Your body can accomplish a lot of times way more than what you even realize you can, but the trick is getting up here to allow you to.
Yeah. I mean, I have definitely been in cycling long enough to age and have transformed myself, and go through different periods of life. But cycling has been a big constant in the middle. And I think you're constantly redefining what you can do and what you can see. And I'm very, very fortunate that I fell out of running and into biking because of injury. But I'm very happy to be in this world.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to I'll get quickly into Pack the Coast, because I know we have a lot of images you sent over, and uh, real. First of all, I mean, who has any arguments with the Central Coast?
Can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, if people look at an event calendar and they're looking up and they're like, "What? There's an event in California in August," but this is really the right place, probably the only place to be in August, is
Right.
there along the Central Coast.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Middle of summer can be terrible here. It's always good there. Even winter, if it's freezing here, it's still not bad there. So love the Central Coast. It's definitely a cyclist getaway haven for sure.
Well, let me throw on some of the images you put out here. And so this is a 3-day event that starts out in Morro Bay. And I recognize Norman in the blue jacket there. So I guess we've had some GBC crowd here. But tell us a little bit about what the itinerary looks like.
Yeah, so it's a 3-day event. First day we meet up in Morro Bay, and we'll ride up to San Simeon, which it's not that far. It's about 25 miles, but if you've never done bikepacking, you load your bike up with triple or quadruple the weight of your bike. That 25 miles becomes 50 miles or even 75 miles of how you would normally feel on your bike. So it can be a long day, but we just take our time and we just have fun, and we make stops along the way. A couple little local businesses that we stop and check out. We stop for lunch, and so first day is the ride up there, and then we have our middle day, which is kind of a free ride day. So my wife Katie and I will lead a couple little excursions. We'll go up to see the sea lions and a couple other places. There's a little winery up near Cambria that we'll ride up to. And kind of depending on what the group's feeling like, group wanting to do. Some people take off if they want to go do a longer ride. I think Norman was itching to do some climbing, so he peeled off for a couple hours and did repeats up Santa Rosa, and the rest of us sat and drank wine while he did that. But the middle day is fun because it's really just whatever people are feeling like, and we'll do some stuff organized, some stuff's on your own, and then we'll have some meetup times to hang out, and then last day is just cruising back home. So pretty fun 3 days.
Now, it's about 25 miles up to the campsite, but along the way, you're stopping in Cayucas, Cambria. What else am I missing? But
We stop in Harmony. Population I think 12, but they have some cool little shops there and ice cream shop that's open sometimes. So another nice little spot. Which that's kind of a big part of our brand, Ride California. Is there's a lot of bigger organizations that put on awesome events, but most time the whole point is get to the finish fast. We like to take our time because we feel like so much in between the start and the finish. That's what's the fun part. It's not getting to the finish line, it's enjoying the in between. So we love finding little businesses, little off the trail places to check out and support our local businesses, especially the small independent shops. So we try to incorporate as much of that as we can into our events.
Yeah, I know we've talked with like Kevin from Grizzly Cycles there in Bakersfield, and they do a few trips, but pretty far travel over 3 days and big mountains. But this is definitely something where it definitely lowers the entry level into something where you don't have to really trudge over a lot of miles and can really step in there. What can you tell to people who it may be their first time or just starting to think about it?
Yeah, this is the perfect venue for a first timer into bikepacking because it is relatively short miles, and I mean it's I think about 1,000-foot gain over that time, but it's pretty easy, and we're taking our time, and we most of the time there's a big group of us that are sticking together, so we're there to help each other out, especially a lot of first timers. A bag might fall off and we all work together. Okay, how can we strap this back on? How do we work together to keep you going? And it's a good time. None of us are one individual expert at everything, but collectively we all learn from each other, and we have myself and a couple others with quite a bit of experience that we can share. And so it's a really good opportunity for a first timer, especially with the location also, because the weather is almost always perfect. And then where we're actually camping is about a 10-minute ride from town. So if you forget something, if you run out of something, you can zip into town real quick. And we had some people that they just didn't want to carry all the food, so they just brought their sleeping stuff, and then every meal they just rode into town and ate at a restaurant. So the sky's the limit, and the areas just makes it so easy for a first timer to get into it and try it out and figure out what works for them.
Yeah, and while you're not in an area where there's a lot of ins and outs, there's still so many things to see. I know, what was it, the general store in San Simeon? I know they were renovating that. I don't know if it's reopened yet.
I heard it is, but I'm not positive. But if it is, we'll probably go try to check that out too.
And then, of course, there's the seals. Are they seals or are they sea otters? They're seals, right?
Elephant seals.
Elephant seals.
Yeah, if anyone's never seen them, they are ginormous. They're always an impressive sight. And so there's a spot we can ride right up to the water and just look over the banister, and there's usually hundreds of them just all piled on the beach. So pretty cool.
Yeah, and just for people who've never touched anything about camping, what does the campsite there have?
So the campsite's pretty nice. It does have restrooms, flushing toilets. They do have showers, hot showers. I think you got to bring quarters, but they have hot showers. They have drinkable water, and then we'll provide campfire and have a campfire at night. And lots of shade. So you got to watch out for raccoons stealing your snacks. So I'd recommend taking your food into your tent with you. First year we ever did it, we left some food out, and all those raccoons had a little midnight chow going for them. But other than that, it's a great little place to camp. It's also, you can walk to the ocean from it. There's a little path that you can walk down and it goes right underneath the highway, so you can actually get down to the ocean without crossing the road, which is cool too.
Now, I mean, this photo here, I think that, people think of like a big camping setup. How do I do that on a bike? But obviously it can be done. You don't, the camps themselves don't have to be that, the tents don't have to be that big, and just, you can be very comfortable with what looks like to be a very minimal amount of gear to take along.
Yeah, especially with bike packing, like a lot of times less is more. Having just the basics. We're just trying to get away, and so leave a lot of that extra stuff behind. Just bring enough to sleep and be comfortable, and then ride your bike. You don't need a lot of extra stuff to enjoy bike packing. Plus, it makes it a whole lot easier to pack your bike if you're leaving the laptop and the kitchen sink behind.
Well, I mean, it's just something real. When you're kind of in this mode, you're not racing. You're basically out there enjoying, and it's kind of like when you've lost your cell phone. The freedom you have of being on the outdoors, and just being able to actually enjoy moments instead of looking for the next one to happen. And I imagine people have trouble wanting to go back on that last day after having all that peace and serenity over the first couple.
Absolutely. And at the actual campground, there's usually not cell reception. If you walk or ride 5 minutes away, then you can pick it back up. But that's another thing I love about going there, is you do get that secludedness and so many trees and bushes in that campground. You actually do feel like you're, somewhere else than, 5 minutes off the highway.
Yeah, it was probably about like 5 years ago. We were staying in Cambria, and then I went early. The road that runs parallel along the north side of the campground, and I saw a whole bunch of kids that were there. It was part of like some type of bike packing camp to make it down there, and I was like, man, if they can do it, that's not making me look good. But it did seem like it was pretty easy for them to set up, and they just really enjoyed themselves. The other thing, though, we were talking earlier about was, Highway 1 is really pretty, but at the same time is closed way up north, so people cannot drive through, and that impacts, I guess, the traffic that's in the area.
Yeah, so as nice as it is when it's open, if you're wanting to travel up there right now, it's for cycling, it's way better because there's so much less traffic because you don't have through traffic. So there's still cars on the highway, but we have a nice wide shoulder the whole way, and a lot less traffic now that you don't have that highway open further north. So yeah, just a lot more locals hanging out than tourists driving through, which is nice.
Well, I have a friend who lives there, and I guess they have a group ride that goes up to Ragged Point, which I guess is the first settlement you kind of have up there. That's up on the cliffs. Has anyone ever tried doing that on Pack the Coast?
I don't think we have. I've ridden up there just on regular rides before, and it is beautiful. But that if we got a group that wants to do that, we could definitely do it. Though it is close enough, and that would be a good ride for that middle day.
So, can you give me a couple tips of things that like people might overlook, or really good gold nuggets of something who's some information for people that are just getting into bike packing?
Pack as light as you can and as simple as you can. Just focus on the basics, which is going to be your tent and a good sleeping pad. Get a pillow. Be comfortable. Like those being comfortable. You're never really going to be all that comfortable when you're camping and sleeping on the ground. So just focusing on being as comfortable as you can will make your experience a lot better. The food aspect of it, there's so many dehydrated, lightweight backpacking food now that you can get that's like actually tastes good and is amazing and takes up hardly any space. So if you actually want to carry all your food, that's a great way to do it and real lightweight. And something that I've done before is I'll just plan to go into town and buy some fresh food, and I just bring a pot, and then I actually cook fresh food there at the campground. So there's a lot of ways that you can do it. As long as you just bring the basics for sleeping, you can figure the rest of it out. And then that's part of the journey. That's part of the excitement of it. And I've done this exact trip 4 times now, and every single time it's different. Not one of them's ever been the same because you do things differently or you forget something. Okay, got to improvise, or brought too much stuff. Someone else forgot it. Here you go. So it's kind of, it all works out, and figuring it out is part of the journey. But yeah, I'd say my key things is pack light, simple, and comfortable.
Yeah, when I was doing my Lost Coast trip, I packed 2 jackets, and I should have just used the one. And I think that maybe just doing a little washing, a little reuse, is something I should have done, looked a little more closely at. I came across a guy who was biking from Alaska to San Diego, and I noticed he wore the same T-shirt every day. But made sure that he washed it. And so, do people bring too much clothing normally for these events, or?
I've seen that pretty often. Yeah, they'll bring too many, but I say just pack layers, and then have those same layers be what you can wear in the evening. And it's not a fast pace ride where you need to be aerodynamic. You got bikes that are sticking out this far. You don't need to have anything aero. So yeah, wear your T-shirt. Wear some stretchy jeans with a chamois. Just be comfortable even on your ride, and as many things as you can repurpose. Then that makes less things to pack. Being a 3-day ride, it is definitely possible that you could wash your clothes in the shower on the first that you wore the first day. Then you have over 24 hours for them to air dry, and then wear that same clothing on the 3rd day. You can definitely knock it out that way too.
Well, if anyone has any questions, go ahead, throw them up in the chat. We're here to answer them. More bike related than anything else. I don't know if I can give gambling tips for NFL games. It's too early in the season. Yeah, I credit card camped, so I thought that was my first gateway. And even then, it took a little bit of planning, but it was also a lot of freedom once I kind of was going in between places and not realizing you have to keep a schedule. The schedule is you, and this is definitely attainable. But I know if you're on the way out, you're probably getting headwinds to start in the first day, but then you kind of enjoy that on the way back.
Absolutely. And that's part of why we take our time even more on the first day. And, everyone's getting used to it, all the extra weight. You have that little bit of a headwind. So first day, we take our time a little bit more. And then that last day, especially on the downhills, and you got a heavy bike with a tailwind, oh man, you're just cruising the whole way back down. It's a fun ride back down.
Now, I know it starts on a Friday. Do people generally come into town the night before, or do they make the trip up the morning? I'm just thinking because I know in San Luis Obispo they have a really cool farmers market the Thursday night before, so I would definitely try and be part of that, because obviously they've got some great barbecue. But how do people plan this out?
Yeah, I think we've had a pretty good split between people that would come down the night before and stay in Morro Bay or San Luis, and then other people just came down that morning of if they lived a little bit closer. Last year, we actually had a guy that lived in Tijuana, and he got off work the night before, drove all the way up, and slept for a couple hours in his car the morning of before he started.
Wow.
So I don't recommend that, but getting some sleep, a little bit more sleep and rest is definitely good. But being in Central California does make it hopefully easier for most people to be able to get there a little bit easier. But definitely recommend getting some rest beforehand, because again, camping, sleeping on the ground, especially if you haven't done it before, you might not get as much sleep as ideal, but you'll still have fun.
What are some of your favorite memories from your trips you've had here?
Oh, well, the raccoons were fun the first year. That was we were kind of sparring with them a little bit, but they're easy to handle if you just plan ahead and keep your food hidden.
That sounds like a life lesson. Like,
yes,
it happens once and then it won't ever happen again, right?
right. Yeah, a friend of ours who had most of her snacks eaten, there were paw prints on her bike and her bags from the raccoons that had been all handsy on her bags getting her food. So that we had enough food to get by, but it was kind of funny to experience that.
This mystery was solved.
Yeah. We on the second day we do a trip up to a local winery, and so that was a lot of fun. Just a lot of downtime, just getting to know everybody and hear their stories of how they started riding and how they got into bikepacking. We probably had about 50% this last time that had never bikepacked before, so a lot of new bikepackers, and so that was fun to talk to them and get to know them. And like I said, we had Norm, who's been to a couple of our events, awesome guy, and he was doing repeats up and down the hill. But that's great. You know, you have a strong rider like Norm, or you have a new rider who's just happy to be there. We can make it work for everybody, and everyone can have a good time. There's opportunities to push yourself, and there's opportunities to just take your time and have fun.
Yeah, and if people really want to make it a complete, no bike experience, no driving experience, you can take the train into San Luis Obispo the night before, and then or the day before, bike into Morro Bay or stay in San Luis Obispo. I think that's probably about like a 20-mile ride into Morro Bay, depending on whether you go on the one or kind of more around it.
Yeah, if you go through Los Osos, that's usually pretty easy to come in from that end. And I think that's actually what our friend Norm did. He took the train in and the night before.
Yeah, so make sure to make train reservations, Amtrak, before you plan that out.
Yeah.
But no, we've done that before. We've taken the train from Van Nuys up to San Luis Obispo and had only our bikes. And it's a great area to do that. Unfortunately, San Luis Obispo was way hotter than the coast at the time, but we didn't have to go too far, so we were pretty good.
For anyone who does plan to take the train, a good little tip, especially if you have a lot of bags on your bikes, a lot of times the Amtrak, they want you to take the bags off before you hang them up in their storage compartment. And so what I do is I go to the dollar store, I buy a mesh laundry bag, and then I take all my bags off, throw them into that laundry bag, so then I can just throw all my bags over my shoulder and carry my bike. So that way I'm not trying to hold 5 or 6 bags and a bike. I just got one bag, and then that mesh bag packs down super light and easy, and once you're at your destination. So it's an easy way to navigate that part.
And also San Luis Obispo is one of those stops where they normally stop for a couple hours. So no rush to find your stuff. And I know some of the lines put the there's the bike car and other ones that they actually put inside with cargo. But you don't have that problem in San Luis Obispo. Definitely take their time there. Oh,
Good.
wine tasting. um, do you go to the wineries that are there on Santa Rosa Road, or I haven't like explored the area so much?
Yeah, just up Santa Rosa, a couple miles from Cambria. There's a winery that's worked well with us and happy to help us out called Stolo, and they have some pretty good wine. And then we usually will pick up a couple bottles on the first day also and have a little happy hour at the campground on the first night too. So it's a little bit of a reward for making the trip up there.
Yes, no complaints. Definitely, if you could throw that in into the mix of everything, it's fantastic. What now? I get a lot of questions about sleeping pads, basically because I don't know much about them. But do you have any like recommendations for sleeping pads?
Make sure it holds air before you pack it. We made that mistake once, that we had a sleeping pad we'd used before and then just assumed it was good to go, packed it, and first night it was flat. So not a fun scenario. And most sleeping pads come with a little patch kit, which I also did not carry with me that year. So always plan for the worst so that you can be comfortable and not be sleeping directly on the ground. So if you're using an inflation pad, air it up the night before you pack it up, let it sit for 24 hours and make sure it's good to go before you pack it. Another cool little trinket, you can find little rechargeable inflators as well. And they're super small, like maybe $15 on Amazon or eBay, and it'll inflate your whole air pad so you don't have to sit there huffing and puffing after you just got done with a ride. Or I've used that, high elevation and you're already lightheaded. So last thing you want to do is, blow up a air pad. You can get these little inflator devices and they work great. So, and I think on our website, we have a little link to one of those. So check those out.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess this past month I've been, dipping my toes, and now like the algorithm on YouTube is showing me like commercials about sleeping pads. So, so you always raise an eyebrow if I'm just being fed this or if they're good companies or not. So, I'm ready for some good recommendations because I'm a very consistent sleeper. I'm very bad at it. So I don't know if the sleeping pad is going to make too big of a difference for me.
Well, most of them have, satisfaction guaranteed. So I'd say if you're really thinking about getting into it and investing in one, order one and throw it on the floor at your house, and or even if it's just in the daytime, take a nap on it. Try it out, because some of them, they have different shapes and even ways that the air flows. And so if you're a side sleeper, you might need one style. If you sleep on your back, another style. And so they actually make different air pads. And again, we're just talking a couple of inches worth of air, but how the air is held in place can be a big difference with how well you're going to sleep, depending on if you're a side sleeper or sleep on your back. So little things like that can make a big difference in how well you sleep. And again, something that you could try out at home before you get out there and realize, oh, this was the wrong one, and you're stuck on it for a couple of nights. Find that out at home. As much as you can practice and test out your gear at home before your trip, that's always the best way to do it. Do a couple, like a shakedown ride too. Strap all your bags to your bike and go for a short ride. Wiggle the bike around as much as you can. Ride a bumpy route just to make sure you kind of get the hang of how stuff mounts. It's good to practice.
Yeah, I know. Like even just going through these photos, like there's no two setup is the same. Everyone kind of has their own preferred way of putting it on. Some people have seat packs, some people have panniers. Some people have, you can see people have stuff on their forks. There's no right way of doing it. Just whatever you feel comfortable doing. And I think, getting, these materials are, they do cost money, but it definitely it's a great investment to make to get some good products.
Absolutely. And you're right, it is a big investment. I mean, most of these setups are not cheap, but I'd say if you're interested in testing it out, ask around. Ask your local bike shop if they know anyone who bike packs that you could talk to, and I guarantee you that you could probably even find someone who's willing to let you borrow them or at least try them out, so that you can see what works for you and your setup. And because you definitely don't want to spend a lot of money and then it not even work right for you. So there's not really any wrong way to do it, as long as you're happy with it.
Yeah, I have a Surly front rack, and it's it almost looks like something in Mad Max. It could take out a fleet of motorcycles. It's pretty sturdy, and it sits here because I haven't had the chance to use it as much as I'd like. But it's actually it's a real fun piece of bike packing that you really want to jump into. And I think it weighs about 4 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot compared to our own weight, but when it's on the front of a bike, it definitely changes the dynamics. But it's when you get the gear that you really like and fits you, it's fantastic. And I think the thing is, what's great is probably in just because this is, I think, we've seen a lot of advancements in bike packing that the gear is definitely, probably advanced better than bikes the last few years.
Yeah, it's incredible to see how much that they've changed. And it kind of started out, people were bike packing on, touring bikes, old steel frames that were road setups. Now you got people doing it on full suspension bikes. And so the industry's had to change, because you got people that are doing mountain trails and camping on the mountain trail rather than just along a beautiful Central Coast highway. So the industry has made a lot of huge changes over the last couple of years, which is awesome, because now you have so many different ways that you can mount to your bike and try it one way. And if you don't like that, there's going to be 20 other ways to try it. So no shortage of options, which is great.
Yeah, sometimes you could say too many options.
Sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, because I don't know if I should put the front rack on my Niner or my Steel Rally. They both bikes offer, great bike packing options, but I guess I can only ride one at a time. Before I close out here, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, you're out of Visalia Cyclery, and I know, Kyle in the springtime always sends me routes nearby or other things he's exploring around the Central Valley. But tell people a little bit about the vibe of Visalia, because it's one of the rare places that it's a really big town along the 99, but just a little off it, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, a lot of times people just miss it because we're not actually on the main highway, but we're a gateway to the Sequoias. So if you love mountains, love getting up into some trails, we're definitely in a great spot for that. A lot of good road riding, got a lot of good fire roads in our area. So got a lot of good camping up in the national forests as well. So we've done some trips up there in the past. And great thing about Visalia is we can get pretty much anywhere in California in just a couple hours. So can get in the middle of that summer heat, can get out of there and get over to Central Coast, or get up in the mountains, get at San Francisco, LA. It's a pretty good hub for all of the best riding in California.
Yeah, I was talking with Robin of Dirty Bear this weekend about coming up with a list of best places to live for cycling, and like I would kind of categorize it between like what's within a half hour, what's within 2 hours, and then what's within like a 5 hour drive. And I think definitely when you're the Central Valley, you've got so many options. And I know Henry from Fresno Cycling is like, it's great because even when it's hot, we're so close to epic cycling. It makes us want to go up there even more. So there's definitely a lot of options through there. And I haven't done as much of Sequoia as I've wanted, but yeah, it's gorgeous up there.
It is, yeah.
So yeah, well, Jesse, thanks for coming on. I hope this gets people just to flip the switch and give it a go, because I know like this is really reasonably priced for people to get out there, which is something you've always done with your events. That you've been more about getting people in rather than making them big tickets. So you've definitely been a great steward to get people out on bikes and to try new experiences.
Thank you. And yeah, that is totally our goal. Starting to ride to California with my wife, like it was, we have our job, our job's running a bike shop, but we were missing giving people the experience of riding and traveling across California. And so to us, that's the whole point of it, is getting people out and riding places that they've never been to and enjoying the experience more than the ride. Because again, like I said, there's so many amazing rides around California, but not as many of them focus on the experience side of it. So hope some of y'all will reach out to us, and if you have any questions or gear setup questions, send me an email. Check us out, and we'll be happy to help you get your gear figured out. We do actually have we're still early bird registration right now. That goes up in 1 week from now. So if anyone is interested, you got 1 more week to get in a little bit cheaper. And it's great to save some money, and we'd love to have you.
Yeah. August 23rd to 25th, it's still summer, but it's still going to be hot. So it's a great place, because I know people this time of year are like, I don't want to put my bike away. It's too hot. I got to get out. So it's a great excuse to give, people an experience. And, I saw the photos you posted with Katie a few years ago when you were biking around the Bay Area, a tourist in your own state, which is really cool. And I think that, when people get to experience that, there's great stories to tell people. They'll be jealous. So
absolutely, it's a whole different state when it's on the bike.
Yes. Anyways, Jesse, hold on. We're going to say goodbye to everyone else, but thanks for coming on, and pack the coast.
All right, we'll see you guys.
All right.